Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and the iPhone 17 Pro Max has been out for over 6 months at this point. I've used it as my main phone most of the time, with the exception of when I switched to the iPhone Air for a little while to review that, use it as my main phone, but then realized that the 17 Pro Max was for me this year. I thought we'd talk about overall durability, since many people are concerned about the durability of the aluminum or aluminium, different sort of scratches and things like that, as well as the scratch resistance of the display. We'll talk about performance, iOS 26, Apple Intelligence, battery, and more. Now the first thing is durability. Frame wear has been fine for me. Now, if you don't drop the phone, I don't use it with a case because I like the overall texture, but if you don't drop the phone, it's just fine. But if you are prone to dropping the phone, you will get some wear here. So if we take a look at the frame on the silver model here, you'll see there's really nothing here whatsoever. No wear at all, and that's probably the best case scenario if you do get the silver model. However, I do have the other colors, and you'll see on the blue one, for example, around the camera lens, it started to wear out just from setting it down. The same is true down on the bottom. You'll get a little bit of wear there. And with the orange one, it seems that many people have experienced the same issue. If you drop it, for example, you'll see there's a little nick in the frame here where it dropped on the ground. So thankfully, I've been able to try all three of them, and this particular one definitely seems to be the most durable as far as that goes because it doesn't show really anything, being that it's silver. Of course, you can keep your phone in a case and that solves all of those issues, but scratch-wise, I don't have a single scratch on any of the camera lenses, and the same is true with the display. The display has been extremely durable. The glass is much more durable as far as scratches go, and if I turn the display off, you'll see there's not a single scratch, whether that's a light scratch, just a micro scratch, or anything else. Everything is just dust on the display, and there's no scratches whatsoever. I did show that I dropped one on a rock, and it actually held up pretty well. You can see that here. This is on the orange one. That's from falling on a rock from about 3 feet, as this was setting on a tripod and fell off of the tripod. Other than that, though, there's no cracks in it, and this is much better than what we've had even in previous years. Now with the 16 Pro Max that I have here, this one actually held up really well also. I do have a light scratch at the bottom, but compared to what the 17 Pro Max can do, it's much better. That was an improvement over the iPhone 15 Pro Max, where this scratched much worse. This is using it the same way without a screen protector and just was far less durable than what we have now with the 17 Pro Max. Apple has done a great job here, and it's very, very scratch resistant, whether it's the glass. The frame, of course, is more scratch resistant since it's softer. But I haven't had any issues, but again, if you do drop it, you can expect it to dent more than it would if it was titanium. When it comes to the design has actually grown on me quite a bit. I've seen many others say the same online, where initially many people thought it was a fairly ugly design, and while originally it may have been thought to be ugly, I think many people have come to accept it as more modern and looking a lot better. Compared to the 16 Pro Max, for example, I actually quite like it. It makes it a little bit more symmetrical, but the camera bump is definitely very large and in the way. But it helps with things such as Wi-Fi and sort of connectivity because they've changed the antenna design. So it really doesn't bother me. And of course they could change this up, change the sort of matte two-tone where you'll see it on the blue one, for example. If you don't like that design, of course, you could just put a case on it, but it really isn't something that bothers me. And I like that it's a little bit different than what we had last year. From a textural standpoint, this is one of the reasons I don't use a case, is I really like the feel of the phone. Every time I pick it up from maybe setting it on a table like this, pick it up, I really like the feel of it, the curvature of it. It just feels really nice to hold, has sort of a soft feel that curves around to the back, making it very comfortable, and it still feels premium. It's less sharp than we had in previous years, even though it was slightly curved with the 16 Pro Max. I just find it to be a very sort of comfortable phone to hold and use daily. So I'm really pleased with it there and no real issues. Of course, performance on this is super fast, and the security that comes along with Apple's chips is great, and of course that protects all of your data. But if you want to protect your data outside of just the phone and maybe online with your personal data, that can be spread everywhere, but you can lock it down with today's sponsor, Incogni. When your personal data is exposed, it can be found on search engines, sketchy directories, and many websites that can lead to identity theft and scams. Not only could your data be exposed, but your email, phone number, address, social security number, and relatives info could be bought and sold by bad actors. Incogni tracks down and removes your personal data automatically from online directories, people's search sites, commercial databases, and many other sites. Incogni also has a custom removal tool that can take down just about everything. Simply send Incogni a link, and a dedicated privacy expert will help you remove all your data. I've used Incogni for years, and they've now removed thousands and thousands of entries. You'll see here, this is my personal login with my privacy dashboard, and if I scroll down, they've completed 1,028 entries since using the service. There's 70 in progress, and they've sent a total of 1,098 sort of messages to get those removed. 146 are scheduled for removal. This is great to see as they continue to remove my personal data off the internet. And of course, once this data is removed, they let you know. Be sure to check them out to secure your data with the link in the description below. Now again, going back to performance, it's much better sustained performance with this year's model thanks to the vapor chamber. Doing intensive tasks, whether you're just running benchmarks with Geekbench 6, playing a game long term or anything else, it's going to stay much cooler than the 16 Pro Max. It sort of spreads out the heat over the chassis of the device, and I can show you what that looks like. So if we do run Geekbench, and I've showed this in many videos, but let's just run it so it sort of heats everything up, and when it's about halfway through, I can show you the overall heat signature. With benchmarks about 50% complete, you can see the overall thermal signature. It gives you an idea of how it's dissipating the heat across the device, and it really doesn't have much of a hot spot there, maybe around 35 degrees Celsius in the hottest point. But if we flip it over here while it continues to finish the benchmarks, we can see how it dissipates heat on the front as well. So again, there's going to be a little bit of a hot spot area where it's warmer, but again, it's around 34 degrees Celsius. Nothing too concerning, and it's doing a great job dissipating that heat. For example, on the iPhone Air, we actually have a much hotter heat signature. That's because we don't have a vapor chamber, and it sort of just sits right here and gets extremely hot. So much hotter on the iPhone Air, and the iPhone 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max do a much better job of dissipating that heat. So it's really great that way, and benchmark scores are pretty good as well. With benchmarks, we have 9,905 for multi-core. This is great. We can typically get around 10,000 or so, but it goes up and down depending on how many times you run it or what might be running in the background. But this is great results. The phone stays fast for longer thanks to that vapor chamber, and cooler for longer because of that as well. So it definitely helps in hotter environments. And I think the sort of shortcomings of the OS, where maybe it stutters if we unlock, for example, we'll slide up, unlock, and swipe. Sometimes it can stutter a little bit, and that's a fault of iOS 26. Apple continues to refine it, but again, that has to do with iOS 26, not the hardware, as the hardware seems to be pretty phenomenal. But if you're in a hotter area in the world and the phone gets hot typically, it's going to be a much better experience with the 17 Pro Max. The same is true with the display, where it can go up to a very bright 3000 nits of brightness and sustain that for longer periods of time. When I first got the phone, it was still pretty hot out where I live. I went to the local drag strip to watch some races, and it was very hot out, and my phone stayed nice and bright. My brother, who was next to me with a 15 or 16 Pro Max, actually got a little bit dim, and you couldn't see his display as well. The 17 Pro Max solves that issue, along with the vapor chamber, allowing for a higher brightness for a longer period of time. Now, when it comes to battery health and the battery itself, well, like I mentioned before, I've used all three different colors of the 17 Pro Max along with the iPhone Air. So of course my battery cycles will be a little bit lower, but if we take a look here, battery health, we're at 100% with 51 cycles on this phone. Most people see it drop down to about 99% around 150 cycles. So that's typical for the phone. It seems to be typical on last year's phone as well. That can vary, but again, it should get us through about 1,000 cycles or so in ideal conditions to drop down to around 80%. So we'll have to see, of course, that will take years to drop down, but we do expect it to drop regularly. As far as overall battery life itself, if we take a look at yesterday's battery, I had 3 hours and 48 minutes of screen active time, 1 hour and 56 minutes of screen idle time, using 66% of the battery. This is actually quite good for me. No real issues with that. It gets me through the day, no problem. And of course, I could put it on adaptive power mode if I wanted to save more. But if we go back here, you'll see under charging mode, so power mode rather, you'll see that I don't have adaptive power on. If I turn that on, I'll probably get even better battery life. But that's one way you can save some battery life, but it gets you through the day, and it has incredible battery life for most people. When it comes to the speakers are pretty great. They go nice and loud. I've mentioned this before, and they haven't degraded at all over time. So if maybe we play some royalty-free music, The speakers still stay nice and loud, around 92 to 93 decibels, at least for that song, and they stay nice and clear even at the highest volumes. Previous iPhones typically would degrade a little bit at the high volumes, but the 17 Pro Max sounds a little bit better that way. When it comes to the cameras, well, it's hard to beat these cameras when it comes to video. There are better photo cameras out there, but when it comes to using them for video and reliability, I've really had no issues with them whatsoever. For example, just using them day to day, whether maybe I'm at an event, I can just count on the iPhone, hit record, know what I've got here, and you've seen some of the footage, whether it's a short or YouTube video where I've used the iPhone and you probably didn't know and weren't able to differentiate between my regular cinema camera. And that's really a testament to how well Apple has developed these cameras. As long as you have nice bright lighting, or if you're outside, the cameras are great. There's maybe some areas they could improve, but overall quality of the video side of it is great. Of course, we have the dual option this year where we can use both cameras at once, talk on the camera, and then see what's behind me, and a few other modes as well with ProRes and ProRes RAW, and all of those different features if you want to use it with Genlock. Photo camera options are quite good. However, it could probably get a little bit better and probably will get a little bit better in the future. Low light is fine. It's pretty good overall, but it could use some improvement compared to other cameras that are out there from different brands. So that's something I think we'll see improved over the next couple of years. There's rumors of a 200 megapixel camera, maybe some improvements there, maybe bigger sensors, but we'll have to wait and see what they do. But for a phone, it's quite good and can be dependable. That's one of the major important things, especially if you're filming content like I do. You need dependable video. So maybe you want to record, you need to know that it's actually saved here and working properly. Now, the Photos app is a different story. Hopefully they revamp that a little bit, but the overall experience with the camera is pretty great. The one thing that seems to be letting down the iPhone 17 Pro Max is iOS 26. However, since iOS 26.4 released, it's much better. Liquid glass has been improved, overall stability and speed and smoothness have been improved. You have the option to turn off many of these features and effects, and I think it's just improving overall. Whether or not you like the actual sort of menu system that we have here, going back, I'm not crazy about all the options, but I think the overall look and design is great, and it is Apple's future with liquid glass. How well it carries over to other devices outside the iPhone is really sort of subjective, but I like the look of it on the iPhone itself. So depending on how you're seeing it, there's sort of fixed legibility behind different things, and it has improved, but again, there's areas where it just stutters. For example, if we get out of here, press and hold, go into the wallpaper. As I scroll, you'll see it's just very stuttery and ProMotion seems to drop. So that's one of the areas where they could improve it. I'm sure Apple's aware and working on it, and supposedly with iOS 27, that will improve it. As for Apple Intelligence, well, many of the features that Apple announced initially are here, but Siri, of course, being one of the big ones, is not. Now, it might be by the time you're watching this video, and Apple may release it with iOS 27, but we basically have the look of Siri lacking all of the functionality they promised. So this is something that they need to fix on the software side, but the hardware is phenomenal. It's just the software side that's a letdown there. But we do have things such as writing tools. We now have playlist playgrounds in the music app here. If we want to create our own playlist using Apple Intelligence, many of these features are here that sort of get out of the way with notification summary and are pretty great. But again, it needs a lot of work and is something Apple has been sort of falling behind in by quite a bit. So hopefully we'll see that resolved very soon. So as far as the iPhone 17 Pro Max, it seems to be the right phone for me after I've been using it. I do miss the iPhone Air from time to time, but just having everything with the battery, if I travel, for example, I need that extra battery. And of course, I have the extra cameras if I need those and all of the latest features. But I think it's a great phone. It's something that's very solid, high quality, and of course some people are going to be disappointed if they drop it, as it definitely is a softer material than titanium. But I don't think it's any less premium, it's just a little bit different. So I think the advantage of maybe the vapor chamber, the overall processor, along with the experience, makes up for the lack of titanium. But it seems other manufacturers are getting rid of titanium as well, but maybe we'll see more of that in the future. Also, the iPhone 18 Pro is said to look mostly like this phone with maybe a different color option. So other than that, we don't expect this design to change for a few different years, and I think it's a nice phone. I definitely can recommend it. And of course, we're about 6 months out from seeing the iPhone 18 released to the public, or at least the 18 Pro and Pro Max, and maybe a foldable iPhone as well. But this is a great phone. I can highly recommend it, especially if there's discounts available right now. Let me know what you think of the 17 Pro Max in the comments below, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.